Welcome into Panther Extra. We're back. It's been since before the North Dakota State game,
Long
unfortunately,
time ago.
that we have recorded an episode. So it's great to be back in the pseudo studio, not drinking any alcoholic beverages, though he does have a monster over there, so he might become unhinged. In another way, it's the man who can't talk after half a beer. It's Jim Nelson on the other side of the table.
You were just
You were slurring.
exaggerated.
You were slurring over there.
Total exaggeration.
We need like the State Farm instant replay or the Allstate instant replay.
Go ahead and throw your red flag.
Yeah,
I was
'cause
totally fine.
I have heard from other people that you were feeling it. They could tell you were feeling it a little bit.
Whatever.
Maybe the brain was just scrambled a little bit, and then I put a little alcohol in there, and the system couldn't handle
the rest
it.
of the night. I think I covered an event that night, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, you weren't good to go for the next 30 minutes though.
Yeah, whatever.
The Cyclone stuff did make it back to the Nelson household though, and the prowl. I was a man of the people, and the prowl was spread amongst the employers, or employees of the Courier. But yeah, it's fun to be back, and even though we don't get to eat food, we like to talk about food, but we're not eating any food or drinking any drinks today. We're talking about a big win that you and I got over Richmond yesterday, 78-73. They were favored in the game. I think that's probably just some respect from the McLeod Center, though there were not a lot of people at the game last night. I don't know if I got an official attendance number on my game notes last night, but I was not surprised, but disappointed with the crowd we got at the McLeod last night. What's your initial takeaway from what you've read, seen, heard of the win over the Spiders?
Well, to be honest, this team's really been an enigma for me. You saw them play despite going 1-2 down in the Bahamas. They played really well down there. I thought, okay, this team's starting to figure things out. They had a bad second half against North Carolina. They played a pretty good game against Tech, and they really throttled Stanford, if you want to put it honestly. And then they come back, and it looked like a team that had lost its way against the Belmont. I mean, now Belmont was a part of that. Belmont's a very good team. But, and then they didn't play that great on the road at Evansville, and so it's like, okay, this one, boy, they really need something here. And, obviously Trey Campbell's stepping up, and you've been seeing it coming. Boy, I don't know if there's a better player in the Valley that's got a better mid-range game than Trey Campbell. I mean,
but it wasn't the mid-range game. He bricked a mid-range attempt for his first attempt of the game, and then went 3 of 4 from the 3-point line. The rest of the way.
But his mid-range game to me is the most impressive part of his game. So that's 15 to 17 feet. Usually it's like money, with Trey Campbell. So we had a great game, and Bowen Bourne, I think 17 points. So hey, that's kind of production they kind of need out of him. So it was a game. I think the pieces are there. It's just I haven't been able to put a thumb on what this team's about. So a very good win for them. They got it done against a Richmond team that's traditionally really well out of the Atlantic 10. So I think. Okay, can they build on this one? Can they carry this momentum? Because I thought they had turned the corner or maybe figured some things out at the Bahamas, or down there to Battle Atlantis. So now, can they turn this into something here with as they go into some more non-conference games?
The official attendance was 3,153. You weren't in the McLeod Center, so I'm not gonna ask you if you thought that it looked like that. It didn't feel like 3,000 people. Anyone who was in the McLeod Center, you can go ahead and drop in and say, hey, Ethan, you're totally wrong. That was definitely what a 3,000 crowd looks like in McLeod. They got loud. They were into it. I mean, you and I jumped out to a 9-2 lead early, and they were into it right away. So the 3,000 strong they were, but it felt like, hey, this is a home basketball game. People, we can get out for this a little bit better. That's my gripe.
Yeah,
from last night.
Value. I'm sure some of it was, they hadn't played very well. So
that's why I wasn't.
Fans that those on the fence, those wagon fans, the on the wagon fans that if they reel off 4 or 5, they're going to come back and it's you can get 4,000 or 5,000 in there on a nightly basis, and that makes for a nice crowd. Three is only half full. So when a place that can hold 7,000 people, you only get 3 in there, that's half empty, and it looks that way sometimes. So you hope you can get them out there. Obviously, we got the student breaks coming up here pretty soon. They're probably into close to the finals week. If finals is not this week, if next week. So, it's so that brings hard when you don't have any students in town too. So hopefully it looks like that they played very well last night, and they looked well doing it against, like I said, when you think Richmond always seems to be in the NCAA tournament. So that's a very quality non-conference win there.
Before I get to the basketball that was played, my final thing is whoever sang the anthem last night. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but she did an amazing job. The applause was extended. Like Andy Sy, he does it every once in a while. He does a good job, but this lady was like, get her on the Super Bowl because she was fantastic. She carried on. She did some funky stuff. Maybe some boomer would say that they don't like that. Just sing it the way it's on the page. But I thought it was exceptional. I liked what the artistic license she took with it. It was really good.
Really good. Well, you should have found out the young lady's name.
I couldn't. I missed it.
That's a journalist. You do some sleuthing. You go up. Who was that?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give her some props.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll get to the bottom of it, and we'll have an answer eventually. But I don't have it right now. Well, all right, whatever. The basketball. I don't know if you read my how you and I bounced back column. We'll call it since it's an analysis. It's an opinion. Yeah. But I think the biggest number was the last number. The Trey Campbell breakout has been a couple games in the making, so I wouldn't say I was stunned by that. He's not scored that many points in a game before. 20 was his previous career high, so that was a big deal. I hated to see the 55% field goal percentage from Richmond to start the game in the first half, but they made up for it in the second with the 37%, holding them to 37%. But the final number, 19-24, was how long UNI either was leading or tied in the second half. So they had a lead for the majority of the second half, and I thought that was the most important thing from that game. Is we've seen them, as you mentioned, in the Bahamas take a lead in the second half and then not be able to finish it. The Texas Tech game comes to mind where they had a big lead at halftime, end up falling in regulation. They have a 6-point lead against North Carolina. Same thing against Evansville. They had a 6-point lead in the second half in that game, end up losing. North Texas, they had a lead in the second half, lost that game. That was the season opener. So it's really just two of their losses where they've not had a second half lead. And so finishing is not like in the typical basketball sense, but like finishing a game has been a struggle for this UNI team. And so I thought last night that stat, that 19 minutes and 24 seconds of either being in the lead or being tied was the biggest thing from that game. What do you say to that? You think I'm off base here at all?
I don't think you're off base, but it's important to know how to win a game in the end. It's important to do that, and especially if you've lost several that way already this year. It's like it starts to become a pattern, and now maybe they're not thinking about it. And when you're in the game, you're probably not thinking about that, but it probably creeps into your mind when you're preparing. Okay,
this is why you need to read my other story from last night. I'm writing 2 stories every game, so you guys need to be getting to the WCFcourier.com to be reading this high quality UNI men's basketball coverage.
He wants a golf clap.
But after the game, Coach Jacobson said like the guys were talking in the timeouts. They were having the conversations. The players were leading these kinds of conversations where it's like, hey, we need to go out. We need to earn this win. And he said that hadn't been happening before. Yeah. And so I absolutely think that was on their minds. Like, hey, we haven't been able to finish. We need to show that right now. So he said it was a big moment for the team. I wanted to ask him if it was a big moment, but I didn't want to, you don't want to sound like you're being critical of the team saying, hey, you guys kind of stunk before.
Now it's kind of go do it a second time.
Yeah.
You talked, you got it done this time. Now it's next game out. You got a second half lead. Go do it a second time.
And Toledo is their next opponent on Saturday in the Buckeye State. That game's at 1 p.m. tipping off. It's on ESPN Plus, Panther Sports Radio Network, as always, with JW. Does a great job. The Rockets had a really fast-paced offense last year that gave UNI a lot of issues. And so if you're looking at Ben Jacobson, he says, hey, our offense is good enough. Our defense is the problem. The defense was still a problem in the first half yesterday. Richmond's a good shooting team. They shoot 50.2% from the field coming in. They shot 55.9, I think, in the first half. So it was still a problem in the first half. They figured it out in the second half. Like you said, need to do it again against Toledo. I think this is kind of the big test, I guess, because then they get Prairie View, A&M, Northern Illinois, and then it's conference play after. Alcorn State too. Okay, so 2 warm bodies in Northern Illinois after Toledo.
I got to get them. Let's try to go 5-0 here, or win 5 straight going into that break, or going into conference play. But It's a big deal. Yeah, the defense is a big thing. Jacobson's going to talk about defense all the time. His teams play good defense, they're a factor at the end of the season, and that's where they got to get. If they want to be a factor at the end of the season, they've got to get to that where they're one of the best defensive teams in the conference. And I think every coach is going to say that, but in particular, you look at UNI, they've had some really good offensive teams, but the defensive end is, coach would say, yeah, we can score some points, but we're winning games because we're playing a good team defense, and we're making it hard. We're making other teams earn every point they score. So that's it. You're gonna run into games where teams shoot great. That just happens. You can play really good in defense, and another team just makes the shots. That's basketball. It happens. But if you consistently make it hard to score for 40 minutes, another team's got to make difficult shot after difficult shot. Eventually, you get a stretch where they don't go down. So that's what you got to, if you play it that way and you're stingy all the time, you leave them, you hit the boards, you give them one shot and out, there's a good chance you're going to win at the end of the game.
Yeah, go ahead and rotate your mic so we can hear you. You're going in and out a little bit.
I'm going in and out.
Yes.
In and out. How's that?
That's great. The one thing you mentioned something, you'll run into a team that's shooting the ball really well. And Richmond was uncharacteristically shooting the ball well in the first half, particularly from the 3-point line. They went 5 of 9. So they're shooting 55.5% from the 3-point line. They were a 30% shooting team from beyond the arc coming into the game. They plummeted back to earth in the second half, went 1 of 9, finished the game 33.3%. So absolutely, you're going to run into some hot teams, and that was the case in the first half. But you still have to put an end to that, and that's what you and I struggled with in the past, is putting an end to a team's run or keeping up with the team. And that's what I wrote with the first number was, hey, this team shot well. No, it didn't kill UNI because they were only down by 2 at the end of the first half. But we've seen UNI's offense go ice cold, and we've seen them be incapable of stopping a run like this. And so to see it happen where it didn't kill them was still semi-alarming. Now they proved me. They went and met like the challenge that write up kind of implied was like, hey, you need to go play better defense, and they went and played better defense. So I think that I think that's a pretty good takeaway from last night. I don't think you can be like, oh, the season's saved at this point, but you're certainly feeling a lot better than you did waking up yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. I think they got to. What is that? Win 3 of the year. So
yeah, second win over a Division I opponent.
Yeah, so you got to feel good. And again, they've got 2 quality wins. Yeah, would they like to have 2 more? Yeah, for sure. And they got to get back on track on in the conference play too. I think you got to build on it. And I think you got go get one now Saturday at Toledo. That's the focus. That should be the focus. You can't worry about Elkhorn State and Prairie View A&M or Northern Illinois. It's Toledo on Saturday, matching that fast pace, slowing that fast pace offense down, and doing your thing, and coming back and getting a win closer to 500.
You're sounding like a coach over there, so I'm going to make you put your coaching cap on as we transition here to a little bit of football talk. It's not football season anymore, unfortunately. The FCS playoffs is still going on, but we're in off-season mode here in Cedar Falls. A lot of portal activity. Put your football coach cap on over there, Jim. Tell me, if you're Mark Farley, how are you directing your staff? What are you looking to add? What do you need to add in the portal right now? We've seen a lot of defensive backs going to the portal recently. They don't have a long snapper anymore. Did a great story on long snapper Isaiah Garman. Go check out WCFcourier.com for that story. But Drew Clausen is in the portal to Iowa State. Doesn't sound like Isaiah is going to come back for his final year of eligibility. So you're looking for a long snapper, looking for some DBs, probably looking for some defensive linemen. You're probably good at wide receiver. You're losing Theo Day. Probably don't need a running back. What of those holes needs filled the most?
I think you're looking at defensive line and defensive backfield. You gotta shore that up, and if you can find a decent transfer portal quarterback, obviously they're not in the Matt Rule like looking that kind of quarterback. $1 to $2 million to get a quarterback in. They're looking for maybe a guy that was a third stringer at a FBS school that just isn't getting the offers he wants, and maybe it was a 3-star or something, kind of like a Theo Day, stuck deep in the bench. They might want to get that, or a guy that's got some playing time at the FBS level, bring him in, give him some competition. I'm not saying Aiden Dunn can't get it done, or anybody who's there. What I'm saying is they might want to bring in somebody for competition, and they frequently do that. That's number one. I think it's fair to say the defensive backfield wasn't as productive,
Well,
or their level of play wasn't as well as they had hoped this year.
Well, at this point, with the exception of Tate Sander, you don't have a single starting defensive back from the final 2 weeks of the season.
And not knowing what they've redshirted this year or who they got that they're developing right now, I think that's a focus. I think you got to go get some defensive backs. You got to get a couple guys that can shut some receivers down. I think that's going to be a real focus, and I believe that's going to be a transfer portal focus too. I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 or 3 of them sign next week.
I think you're dead on with defensive back. And if you aren't on Twitter and haven't been keeping up with that news, since I haven't gotten it in the print edition or online, and you've somehow figured out how to tune into a podcast but don't have Twitter, I don't know how you've managed that feat of technology, but thank you for tuning in. Dalshawn Staley in the portal, Corey Thomas in the portal, Lou Governor graduating, probably going to pro. Am I missing anyone here? You also had a linebacker go in.
Edwin Dearman.
Not
going to take his 6. He's been here 5 years, but he's not taking his COVID year.
But he's in the portal, so he's going to play his final year, just not at UNI, or maybe not at UNI.
He gave 5 good years.
All these guys can still come back. I think Dalshawn's probably the biggest loss, considering he was only a redshirt freshman and played some really good ball towards the end of the season. But you're looking at like a guy like Tate Sander, who was the young guy in the room this year. He's going to be the only one with experience at this point. So I think defensive back in a guy who has seen, hopefully, maybe a guy who has either lost his job but saw the field, or like a lower Division I, like a Pioneer League superstar that's looking for a bigger opportunity. That kind of needs to be your market, I guess. You need to corner that.
Yeah, they got to get after that, and that's probably priority number one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in their coaching staff room. I'm not in their recruiting room. They've got a big board. They've got their targets on their big board. I think that's one. Then you look at that defensive line. Christian Boyd gone. I think Caden Houghtelling graduates, if I'm correct. So you're looking at to replace.
Pull up the roster.
I think Cordarius Bailey
is done.
Is done. So you're looking at 3 high impact, productive players that you got to replace on that defensive line. You got Cannon Butler coming back.
Caden Houghteling's a redshirt senior, so he might have like a COVID year, but you never know if those guys are going to come back.
So you're looking at so defense. It's going to be defensive. You're looking at a lot of people. Bryce Pop's out there looking at every defensive lineman he can find.
And we've seen some offers out to JUCO defensive linemen, and Taro Thompson, I believe, was the Iowa defensive lineman who got an offer from UNI. He's still
an Iowa native. He's from Dubuque. So
he's still hyping himself on Twitter though, so it doesn't seem like the UNI
he
offer
blocked
is.
2 punts. That's impressive from a defensive lineman.
If he wants to come do that at UNI, that'd be sweet. I like those wild plays. That's what makes college football great. You don't get that enough in the NFL.
And when a defensive lineman blocks a punt, though, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I haven't seen I don't follow Iowa close enough. Were they like muff snaps?
No, this was legitimate rushing and blocking the punt. So the one was against Northern. I believe it was Northern Illinois. I covered that game. I should know this on top of my head, and I cannot for the life of me remember the second one. Huh?
Western Michigan.
Western Michigan. That was it. Yeah, it was a MAC school. I was close. I was in the right conference.
Wrong state though.
Western Michigan, and the other one was Northwestern. He blocked the punt that kind of saved that game, I believe, or helped save that game for Iowa against Northwestern.
So anyway, what we're saying is we have seen we're following the portal breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
We're not in the room, but we're following the portal breadcrumbs. They've offered defensive linemen, they've offered DBs. Haven't had a transfer quarterback offer that I've known yet. In the quarterback room, right?
I just think that's something that's an obvious one if you can find one. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're confident with your quarterback room right now.
I mean, you have Matthew Sheckelman, who's been in the program. He'll be going into his 3rd year next year. You have Braylon Cameron going into his 2nd year next year. You have Aiden Dunn, who will be going into his 4th year with the program next year. You have, I'm missing the one that transferred from Butler.
What about the Council Bluff kid?
I said Braylon.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry.
Yep. Jake Wolf, who is a redshirt sophomore, going to be a redshirt junior next year. He's a JUCO transfer. Mm-hmm. He transferred in from Butler this last year. He'll be in his 2nd year with the program. And then you got Kale McThenia coming from Illinois, your one quarterback signee in this class. So I mean, I don't think the cupboard is bare in the quarterback room.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying if there's a kid with some experience out there, maybe a kid that's at a different FCS school and he's looking for another chance.
Matt
Maybe
Morrissey.
a different league, huh?
Matt Morrissey.
Matt, I threw that out there as a joke. I don't know if he'd be coming back to UNI. He was here at once, left. He had a really good year at West Illinois, but yeah, who knows? I mean, why not? You know the system, right?
I think UNI should go get Jeff Sims from Nebraska. He had like 8 turnovers in 4 quarters of football. It was incredible.
Yeah,
He's super fast though. It'd be fun to watch.
super fast. I don't know if he fits into the. Well, he could fit into the UNI system.
Hey, you mold your offense to an athlete like that.
I mean, UNI did it once with Aaron Bailey. Aaron Bailey, former Illinois. Yeah, when he came here, he was more of a runner than he was a thrower. And boy, I tell you, their offense moved.
And then I guess before we wrap up the show today, it's a little bit shorter. We don't have as much to talk about at the moment. Women's basketball team kind of struggling a little bit.
Struggling, injury bug. I think, obviously Grace Buffelli hasn't played the last 2 games. I think Maya McDermott.
She's played limited minutes.
Yeah, Maya McDermott has been banged up. There's this team returned almost intact from last year, and they added a pretty good piece in Shatea Wettering from Iowa. I think maybe they're missing Cam Finley a little bit. I'm not sure, but it's been surprising how they've struggled the way they have, because I really had high expectations, and they can still reach a lot of these goals. But their stretch right now, it's been a real struggle. They've been blown out in a few games here, and that you just don't see that from Tanya Warren teams. Usually if they're getting blown out, that's an anomaly. It's just something that happened. It's a bad day, and then they bounce right back. But they got a big game on Saturday, home, South Dakota State. Let's see who they have. But if Grace is not playing, that takes away your best presence in the center, in the middle. That's your best player. That's your best player.
It's Shatea.
Shatea. I know.
You said Taya.
I have to know how to spell it. I had this conversation with some radio guys a couple weeks ago.
Well, I messed it up at media day. That's the only reason why I'm coming after you. And Coach
Wettering,
Warren corrected me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
It's a hard first name to pronounce. It's a pretty first name, but I can't pronounce it very well. I'm just Wettering. I'm gonna just call him Swettering.
What I guess if you're looking at it, you're on a 6-game losing streak if on the women's basketball team here, but you have a win over Green Bay, who's had a nice run.
They won 26 games last year, I think.
Yeah, they were good last year. They've had a nice run since losing to UNI at home. I guess I wanted to ask this same question. We were talking about UNI men's basketball after the loss to Evansville, but it didn't seem like the sky was falling on Monday. Like no Chicken Little sightings with Tanya Warren, neither with Coach Jacobson either. Where do you think the confidence level is at in that locker room? If you could dip into your...
I think they know they can win. They've got players that have won. They've got players that have won in the Valley. It's the injury bugs. If you don't get those players, McDermott and Buffelli healthy, that hurts you big time. Those are 2 all-conference level players. You have to have them functioning at at 100% or close to 100%. That's one of the reasons they played a very difficult non-conference schedule too. Creighton's a top 25 team. Iowa top 20. Well, obviously Iowa. South Dakota has been in the NCAA tournament recently. They've been very well. So it's not like they're playing cupcakes. It's a pretty tough schedule.
Well, like I asked Coach Warren at media day, you get to play a lot of the regional powerhouses that the men's team wishes they could play.
Yeah.
And so, she said, well, we don't take that opportunity for granted, and we know it's tough, and we relish the challenge. And it's not going to get any easier before the start of conference play. Like you said, They have South Dakota State on Saturday.
But everything's still on the table for them. They can still, you can figure things out, figure out what you can do with the players that aren't firing on all cylinders right now, and you still can reach all your goals. You can, and plus your strength of schedule is going to help you out in the end. When it comes to postseason, but I think it's still there. I think the Valley, they're still going to be right in the thick of the Valley race. I think that's the team they can be. They just they're just going to find some ways. And Coach Warren has won far too much to not figure it out. She knows how to mold a team and win. I don't have her resume in front of me, but I don't think I can count. I'm not sure she's had a losing season in a while.
Oh yeah, I can't pull up her year-by-year record that easily.
But
Maybe
I'm pretty sure
I just
it's
had the
been a
media
long
guy
time.
pulled up actually. They finished the non-con with a matchup against Iowa State.
That's gonna be a tough
in
matchup.
Ames, and that was a Iowa State team that just went toe to toe with Iowa. So yeah, it's gonna be another test right before conference play, and then they open it up with Missouri State. So I think it's not, you're not giving up on the UNI women's team.
No, I think obviously, I think there's concerns. There's concerns there. They haven't played. They've lost 6 in a row. They haven't played well. But this team has won far too many games over the last 5-10 years to not figure it out. I mean, they were in the WNIT Final Four a couple of years ago. I mean, this team, and there's players on this team that were on that team. They know how to win games. It's just let's get healthy. Let's get going. They're going to figure it out. I truly believe they're going to figure it out. Yeah, the last few, there's some head scratches there. You wonder what happened. What's going on, but this team can play.
I do not have a year-by-year coaching record for Tanya Warren in this media guide. Josh, please include
we need that.
We need that in the media guide.
It should be in there. I'm surprised you can't find that.
It wasn't super high up there, so
okay, you might have to go.
I'm checking to see if Wikipedia has it. It does not. It has her basketball Oh, there we go. All right, losing seasons. She started with 2 losing seasons. Did not have another one ever again.
So she's been there 7.
This is I think it said it was her 16th season.
16th year. So 14 straight winning seasons. Jeez, winning seasons. Coach Warren, 14 straight winning seasons.
That was funny, and 3 straight WNIT appearances.
So like I said, that's the biggest shock here.
And if you want to go beyond the COVID year, 5 straight.
Yeah.
COVID year canceled postseason. So yeah, I mean, this is a team that is used to success. She said that on Monday. It's like, hey, we have a team of girls that have not women. I think she said girls. I was going to say women. A team of women that have not lost very much in their career. So they're kind of in uncharted waters themselves at this point. But I didn't get the impression that there was any less resolve on the team. That'll go ahead and do it for Panther Extra for today. Josh, please get Coach Warren's year-by-year coaching record in the media guide, like right next to her bio. There's a little white space I saw. So please go ahead and drop that at the end of her second page bio. Thank you for watching Panther Extra. We'll be back next week with some more great commentary on UNI athletics. Hopefully there's some more big news. I've been told that there's big news coming, so hopefully it's before the next show. But that'll do it for this episode of Panther Extra. Thank you for watching.